Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Happy to have you here today on our Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, where we're going to be talking about bloating and gas versus food sensitivities. So I've chatted about this topic before in the past. This is one of the biggest questions that continues to come up and biggest misconceptions even in the wellness practitioner, integrative health practitioner space. So I want to clarify today what the difference is, because there are huge differences between how the digestive system works and how food sensitivities work, and the actual symptoms are not the same. So hopefully you tuned into yesterday's show, episode 2090. Today's episode 2091, so all the links here today will be at episode 2091. But this is a good follow-up show to that. Yesterday was about how intermittent fasting actually improves overall digestion. But today we'll be talking about what a lot of the underlying symptoms are for your bloating and gas in the first place. So a big part of our practice, a big part of our international, global, virtual functional medicine practice, integrative health practice, is working with digestive issues, because digestive issues are really at the heart of a lot of dis-ease in the body. And that's because you aren't necessarily you are what you eat, but you are what you break down and you absorb into your body. And so this is a really important factor to look at. So yesterday I explained, with the help of my buddy Walter here, if you're watching this on video, how the digestive system works, right? So food coming down the esophagus, into the stomach, hanging out for anywhere from 30 minutes to about 3 hours or more, and then going through the intestines over the next 12, 24, 36 hours. Yesterday, I talked about how many bowel movements in a day is normal. So definitely check out that show, episode 2090. Today, what I want to go through, though, is understanding the reasons for bloating and gas, and if food sensitivities have anything to do with that, all right? So let's look at it, because again, there's so much misconception on this topic. You'll understand what I'm talking about in 1 minute. So I want to give you different times of the day and reasons for bloating and gas. So if someone wakes up with bloating and gas, this is very abnormal. Most people that have bloating and gas, we'll talk about it happens with meals, with the meal or a couple hours after the meal. If you wake up with bloating and gas, there's more of an issue going on. There is an issue going on with your body that you would be bloated even when there's no food necessarily in your stomach or that was moving through your intestines in the last 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, right? So it typically means there's a larger health issue, okay? Or, which is part of it, there is an H. pylori infection in the stomach. This is common. Remember, about 25% or more of people have H. pylori without even knowing it. They picked it up from undercooked meat, undercooked fish. They got it at a salad bar. It's prevalent. It really is. I've had H. pylori multiple times before in my younger years. Not younger, but like 15 years ago or so. My youngest daughter got it with food poisoning, and hers is now gone too. Right, because of course, anything that you get, you can get rid of if you need to. That's the beauty of natural health overall, is that you're able to get rid of these things because they are part of our environment. We can pick them up, but we can also get rid of them once we rebalance the body. But here's the thing. You want to make sure that you're not bloated upon waking. If you are, it's a different story. The number one lab for that is the bacteria and parasite stool test. If you don't run any other lab, that's the one to run for that. All of these labs that I'm talking about today, I'll link them up at stephencabral.com/2091. But you can also just find them, all the labs I recommend, at stephencabral.com/labs. Okay. That's upon waking. If you get bloated within 30 minutes of eating, okay? So you're eating your meal, it takes you 10 minutes to eat, 20 minutes to eat, whatever it might be. The food ends up in your stomach. If you get bloated that quickly, it's typically a food that is not agreeing with your stomach, okay? One of them could be lactose. There's no doubt about it, right? That sugar in dairy, you might not be able to process well right out of the gates, right through the stomach, right? Sugar can get digested pretty quickly. Or it could be an enzymes issue, a lack of enzymes in the food or processing the food. It could also be fried food. A lot of people do not do well with fried oil, especially when it's battered, right, with gluten. And the biggest reason is a lack of stomach acid, especially if you find yourself belching after a meal. Typically, that means low hydrochloric acid production. I have a podcast on low HCl. I will link that up today on stephencabral.com/2091, how to look for it, how to deal with it as well. All right. So that is upon waking. That's with a meal and within 30 minutes of meal. Belching, typically lack of stomach acid. So we're not going to go through exactly how to work these things yet. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I want to go through all the different reasons for the bloating, most common reasons. 2 to 3 hours after a meal. Let's say you start to get gas or bloating. Now, a lot of people consider it their stomach. Remember, your stomach is right below the middle. So if you feel your rib cage, okay, you can't really see my buddy here. Let me put his lungs back on him, Walter here. If we look below the rib cage, which would end right here, your rib cage is protecting your lungs and it's protecting the top of your liver as well. But right below that, right, is going to be your stomach. Okay. But once you get down to your navel or your belly button, if you were to draw a circle around that area, right? So this is basically Walter's belly button. If you were to draw a circle, cup your hands around it, that's all your intestines. So about an inch or two above the belly button, and then all the way down towards the pubic area is going to be your intestines, and then out to the sides. So you have to understand, when you're bloated there, it's an intestinal bloat, not your stomach. And I want you to know the difference. And when I used to see people in practice, in private practice, we would just palpate the stomach, we could palpate the intestines, and then I could actually feel where they might be impacted in terms of the intestines as well. So just understand, if you're getting bloated 2 to 3 hours after a meal, it's usually because of candida overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth, and the food is moving towards now the candida inside of the small intestine, okay, all of this area, and the bacteria, and it's feeding it. And it's allowing that bacteria or yeast to give off its byproducts, which are often methane gas or hydrogen-based gas. And what that does, it actually blows up your small intestines. It creates gas in them, and the extra space that it's taking up causes pressure. That pressure causes what feels like bloating, it is bloating, and pain or uncomfortableness. And that gas needs to escape as well. It needs to get out of your body. And that's what flatulence is. It's getting rid of that methane or hydrogen-based gas, getting it out of your body. And the more bacterial overgrowth, the more yeast overgrowth, and the more you feed it, the more gas you're going to have. So a lot of people say, well, I'm just never going to eat carbohydrates again. That's not the answer. That is a conventional medicine-based approach. Remember, the answer is to always bring the body back into balance so you can eat carbohydrates again. It's not the carbohydrates' fault. It's the yeast overgrowth and the bacterial overgrowth. Now, again, I'm not talking about processed carbohydrates, right? But if you can't eat sweet potatoes or yams or some oatmeal or fruit, there's an intestinal imbalance, and we need to fix that because it's not going anywhere, even if you try to starve it out. Because when you eat carbs again, it's just going to start to grow back in kind. I've got a show on that as well. I'm definitely going to link that up for you today at stephencabral.com/2091. All right. So you want to, first of all, if you can lab test for that, you want to lab test for that. That's the digestive-based bundle of labs. Bacterium parasite test, Candida and metabolic vitamins test, and then there's a food sensitivity test. That's at stephencabral.com/labs. You can also run it with an integrative health practitioner, level 2, and you can also run it with a naturopathic doctor as well. So remember, you don't need to run it with my company. You can run it with an integrative health practitioner level 2 or a naturopathic doctor that you know locally and that specializes in gut-based digestion as well. The choice is always yours. Just make sure that any of your labs always comes with a consultation so you know what your results mean, so you're not left Googling it. And it also comes with a protocol in order to rebalance your body, because if not, what's the point, right? So one more time that you may be bloated. There's one more instance during the day, and that is at bedtime. If you've already eaten hours ago, you're going to bed and you're feeling bloated. You're feeling like you have gas, or you might even have diarrhea at night. That could be a sign that you have parasites, and you're going to want to get that checked for sure. And the reason is parasites are often most active at night, in the evening. So anal itching at night, bloating at night, gas at night, loose stool, these are all night sweats. These are all possible symptoms of a parasite. And again, you'll want to run that bacteria and parasite stool test. Okay, really, really important. So those are the reasons, those are the reasons and times that most people get bloated and or have gas or belching, right? So this is different though than food sensitivities. You'll notice that it didn't mention really food sensitivities in there. And that's because food sensitivities, and this is going to come as a shock to most people, don't typically cause a lot of bloating or gas. And here's why. First of all, there's food allergies that we don't want to confuse with. Food allergies cause an accelerated heart rate, flushing of the ears, flushing of the skin, meaning turning red. Could be throat closing with more of an anaphylactic-based reaction, but it's not bloating, right? It looks like a norepinephrine-based production. It looks like the body's producing adrenaline in response to higher level of histamine production, some type of IgE, IgA-based response. That's a food allergy. We're not even talking about that. That is more medically based. People know it. They have a peanut allergy. They have a strawberry allergy. They have some allergy. They carry an EpiPen around with them. That's a food allergy, okay? A sensitivity is what we're talking about today, and we'll be doing a case study on them tomorrow. So definitely tune into tomorrow's show as well. We're doing a big digestive dive this week. But a food sensitivity is going to be more like the ears can still get flushed. They can turn red. The cheeks can get a little bit red. You can get a skin rash. You could end up with brain fog or fatigue within the next couple hours after eating the food. A delayed sensitivity, which is more of what we test for an IgG food sensitivity, it's a day to 2 days to even 3 days later. That could be a headache the next day, skin rashes like eczema, a worsening of psoriasis. It could be brain fog the next day or lethargy the next day, kind of feeling run down. You might have joint pain, any type of inflammation that would increase your inflammatory load, total toxic load, that then leads to more of your symptoms of your disease, right? So if you have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or anything like that, it would inflame those, or MS, because it's more of that. It's creating more inflammation, which then targets your genetic susceptibility at that point. So that's more of the delayed reactions. Now, you'll notice though, with all these food sensitivities, the skin rashes, the brain fog, the joint pain, the inflammation, the worsening of symptoms of your disease, at no point did I say bloating, right? Because bloating is a digestive-based issue. Bloating has to do with an increase in gas production inside of the stomach from low stomach acid or enzymes, or slower bowel motility, which we talked about yesterday, or fried food, or one of those things. But it has to do with the actual digestion of the food. And when it gets to the intestines, it may take you an extra day to move that food along because of high levels of stress, right? And that causes then what? More bacterial overgrowth in the intestines, more fermentation, more impaction of the stool. So those are all digestive issues, even the bowel motility I spoke about yesterday. Those are not food sensitivities. A food sensitivity is not bloating, because food sensitivity, or even food allergy, is an immune response to the proteins in those particular foods. So if you have dairy and you get gas or diarrhea, that is a digestive issue of an inability to produce lactose to produce lactase to break down the lactose, which is in that dairy, right? That's a digestive issue. That's an enzyme. That is not an immune reaction to the proteins, which is what food sensitivities are. So food sensitivities are an immune reaction, immunoglobulin A, E, M, G, all of those are faster response to medium response with an M to a delayed response with G, right? And there are many more immunoglobulins than that. But those immunoglobulins cause inflammation when they go after those proteins they see in the intestines or as they begin to move out of the intestines with leaky gut, which we'll talk about tomorrow. So it creates inflammation rather than bloating. And the inflammation shows up as any of your susceptibilities, skin issues, joint issues, headaches, fatigue, autoimmune, etc. So I just wanted to share this with you today because there's a big difference between a food sensitivity and a bloating-based issue. And your bloating-based issue foods, like let's say, well, it could be anything. Let's say, oh, every time I eat grapes, I get bloated. Okay, and then you do a food sensitivity test and grapes don't show up high and you're saying, oh, this food sensitivity test isn't true. There's no validity to this because I eat grapes and I get bloated. Remember, bloating is a digestive issue and that could be from the specific dextrose, which is a specific sugar in grapes that's a little bit higher, or it could even be candida overgrowth, which may feed on that, right? But the food sensitivity test looks at inflammatory responses when you eat certain healthy foods. That's why it's so valuable. I'll be talking about it tomorrow, but they're very different, okay? So you don't want to discount your digestive issues when you eat something like grapes, but also you have to understand is they're not causing the same response. A digestive issue can cause inflammation, but a food sensitivity doesn't necessarily cause bloating or gas, all right? So I wanted to share that with you today. Remember, there's always an underlying root cause. Whenever possible, you want to run your at-home lab tests through an integrative health practitioner level 2 or a local naturopathic doctor or through our practice over at EqualLife. You can find those labs at stevencabral.com/labs. There are 3 lab tests that you can complete. The bacterial parasite stool test, that's the number 1. The number 2 would be the Candida metabolic and vitamins test. And the number 3 would be the food sensitivity test from an IgG perspective, that delayed response, which is really difficult to figure out on your own. We're always happy to answer questions. We do this show to provide as much education as we can, as much free education as we can. Whenever you want to take things to the next level, we're always there for you as well. And we can even point you towards great integrative health practitioners, et cetera. So have an amazing day. If this was helpful, please do feel free to pass it along to anybody else you believe it could serve. Take care. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. And before you go, I want to make sure that you know about the amazing giveaway over at EqualLife. EqualLife is our virtual functional medicine practice where we help people all over the world. And we've been doing so since about 2017 when I began to slowly move my Boston-based practices online virtually so we can help more people through the power of the internet. So one of the things that we like to do on a weekly basis, as much as we can, we like to share with people a lot of our favorite products. And one of those products that the community has absolutely been loving are our new CBD gummies. These are 10 milligrams per gummy, and they're the only gummies that I know of, literally anywhere, that do not have any artificial colors, which means no artificial dyes, no paints in them, anything like that, and they have no artificial flavors. So they are the cleanest CBD gummy on the market, and they deliver 10 milligrams per gummy. Most adults will have 4 gummies at one time, and although you'll want to work with your health practitioner, if you have a child using cannabinoids as part of their protocol, they of course could start with a half or 1, and that is up to you, of course, as a parent. But we are giving away our watermelon flavored CBD gummies right now on all qualifying orders over at EqualLife. Of course, I think you should take advantage of this. It's an amazing product and it's absolutely free. So it's a great price. I believe they are it's a $49 value. Yours completely free. Head on over to stevencabral.com/EcoLife and you will be able to see this offer while supplies last. Again, it's stevencabral.com/EcoLife, and EcoLife is EQUILIFE. Take care.